someone
the road.
comes, right?
So you can't
So it was-
start.
Yeah, it was like 7:01 to 7:45
We just
waiting
sat
for
here.
the, because we were doing them every 15 minutes, and I think there was one that it was like a minute, and we just had to sign something. The others were, they decided to continue,
Yeah,
and then, so then it was a final one.
yeah.
Tom, I didn't know, I had printed out, I didn't know if you wanted those to go to the members or not,
Sure.
just in the case they get questioned by people.
This is regarding 144 Seekonk Street, that just, it's a history of what has taken place out there through the town boards,
Oh, okay.
you know, just as a list.
I hate
And
these. Everybody got them? Okay.
Lorraine's not coming in tonight because it's really. Is it 7? Let's wait for Amy. Gleason. Okay. Okay, welcome to the Norfolk Conservation Meeting, Wednesday, October 10th, 2018. It is now 7:02. First tonight, we have a notice of intent hearing for the enclave, and the applicant has asked for continuance as they complete their hearings with the ZBA. So we're going to vote on a continuance. So I need a motion to continue the enclave hearing till November 14th.
I move to continue the enclave hearing until November
14th.
14th.
And a second?
A second?
Okay. At 7 o'clock. Okay. Second, Jim. Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay.
We have to wait.
Till 7:05. Okay. Sure. All right, can we just talk about the MACC correspondence for a minute?
Yeah.
So let me just do that, we can do that. So MACC has sent they send notices about stuff they're having. And Janet told me the other day that we do have funds to pay for those classes, if you want to take one, it can be paid, and also you get your mileage paid for your car, and I don't know where they are. They're different places?
Yeah, this is Leominster, Doubletree by Hilton.
So if you want to go to one, you just need to, I guess, ask Amy about it first, and then sign up for it and attend. So it's up to you.
Anytime, because even in the newsletters or whatever, they'll have different workshops or whatever's going on. So anytime one of those interests you and you're thinking of going, that's, part of the filing fees is to cover that. And if you keep track of your mileage, it's, 57 that way, 57 back, you turn in a voucher and get reimbursed. And I think it's, off the top of my head, 0.545 cents per mile, Or same thing, they used to, I haven't seen it lately, but they used to have it on their website and something I want to do is get updated copies of some of the booklets, the big binders that we have. We might have like 2006, so we could use an updated edition on that, but they're fun to go to. It's, and then the Chapter 91, it's FYI, we got mail from DEP, remember 60 River Road, the house, and then they had separate, not from us, but they had to go through the state for the permit for the dock.
Correct.
So they applied for that, and here's finally, it's issued October 1st, their permit, that they have 60 days to get that recorded or it's null and void, so,
Okay, so we don't do anything about
We don't
that.
do
They have to
anything
go to the
about it.
registry of deeds.
yep. And then they even have their little signs for them to use or whatever, so it's just an FYI.
Okay, so we got 7:05 now. So at 7:05, we have a request for determination for Cranberry Heights subdivision, and the applicant has asked for a continuance while he deals with the property owner, which may impact the overall project. So I need a motion to continue the Cranberry Heights determination until November 14th at 7:05.
Okay, I make a motion to continue the Cranberry Heights subdivision request for determination until November 14th at 7:05.
Okay?
Second.
And a second. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay. Okay. So next we had was 144 Seacon Street for Lorraine Sweeney. And she has not come in tonight, and we don't have any new news for her. I have had a meeting with just Janet about that, and we made a list for all the members just of all the stuff that's happened with that property to date with the town boards. And I just want to say the way it was listed on the agenda, where it says regarding Patrick Honors report, assess for potential further action. At this time, there is no action that is under assessment with the board, and that at this time, it was just for us to answer Lorraine Sweeney's questions regarding our review of the superseding ORAD that was issued after her appeal was processed by the state. So I am going to meet with a couple of other people in the next week or two regarding that ORAD and go over this list of things with them. And then we're going to give her a reply to her request that she came in at the last meeting. So. And we had sent out an email to Mr. O'Hart to attend this meeting as well, and again, that was just to inform him that Lorraine was coming in, and we wanted him to know that we were gonna have a discussion with her regarding that, and that is all that that was meant to be. And there's been some confusion over that, and that was not intentional. So, we're gonna move on to I guess we should do the minutes.
Or, yeah,
Don't have them, okay.
Oh.
All right, so we're gonna do the items for Keeney Pond
right.
next, which are extensions for orders of conditions. Am I going out of order here? Should I have done the DPW next? Should I have done the DPW next? Am I going out of order here? No, it doesn't matter. Okay, all right, so we'll just vote on these two. Again, these are just extensions. So we have requests for extensions for the orders of conditions for two properties, 7 Keeney Pond Road and 17 Keeney Pond Road. And these are to grant extension for order conditions for two house lots, right?
Yeah,
They
single
have already
family.
been approved by the town at another time. And these extensions are for 3 years, is that right?
Yeah.
So, is there any discussion on that anybody wants to have? Okay, so we gotta do two separate
Yeah.
votes on this, so we have two forms, so I need a motion to, have a extension of the order conditions for 7 Keeney Pond Road.
I move to allow the extension of order of conditions for 7 Keeney Pond Road for
Yes.
3 years.
For 3 years, for a second,
I'll second it.
and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And all opposed? Okay, so let's sign that.
Which one did you put first?
7.
7's the first one.
I'll leave the level one down.
Okay. Okay, so next up, we have 17 Keeney Pond Road, which has a request for an extension for the order of conditions, and that is for 3 years. So can I have a motion for 17 Keeney Pond Road?
I'll make a motion to, for 17 Keeney Pond Road for the extension of the order of conditions for 3 years.
Okay, any discussion? Okay.
I'll second.
Second? Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so we'll sign that one. Okay. So next up, we have Barry, and I don't know how to say your last name?
La Riviere.
La Riviere.
Yeah, it's the river.
Okay.
It's pretty easy.
Okay, so,
Drive.
so Barry's here to talk about the MS4 stormwater project in town, and he's gonna give us a presentation.
Thanks for having me here tonight. New to town, I've only been in town for 3 months, so it's been an adventure so far. Can you slide one of those this way?
Not mine.
I don't want to hold the hand mic all day long. Don't worry, this will be quick and painless. So thanks for having me in. A little bit about my background. I was with the town of Bellingham for several years. I worked for the Department of Public Works there. I was on the Conservation Commission as a member and vice chair for 16 years. I've been with a private consulting firm the last 15 years where my focus has been stormwater, GIS, and asset management. One of the reasons why I was selected to come into Norfolk. So I don't know if you've heard or you've heard all the fun news about it, but there is a new stormwater permit for the state of Massachusetts. And I'll kind of take you through this little PowerPoint. Let's see if I can get it. Oh, it's a PDF, isn't it?
It is, yeah, so it wouldn't, you can do next slide.
Yeah, we can
but
do
then
this
you have
one.
to Just scroll down.
So I had EPG, which is currently our stormwater consultant engineers, kind of pull this together so I could kind of present what's going on to the board. Little regulatory background, Federal Clean Water Act was way back in 72. We had nothing until 87. 1990, Phase 1 stormwater entered the mix. Most people are familiar with a Phase 2 stormwater, which was in 2003. That was the first huge statewide implementation of stormwater management, bringing forward the MS4. Currently, we're in the 2016 permit, which wasn't effective until July 1st of this year. There were several lawsuits. There was a lot of complaining and issues going on with the 2016 permit. A lot of it's still in litigation as well. What is it at MS4? And I'll bring it back up here. Yeah, I'll just use the mouse. That'll be better. Is that fine for everybody? So a municipal separate stormwater system, a conveyance or system of conveyances owned by the town that discharges to the waters of the U.S. It is designed for use in collecting and conveying stormwater, not combined sewer, not part of a publicly owned treatment work. So this is all our stormwater infrastructure within Norfolk falls under the MS4. I have a great MS4 map in our notice of intent. The entire town is in the MS4. There's not a piece of us that are exempt. Some communities have sections that are exempt due to population. MS4 is, Norfolk is in the whole shebang. This was taken from our 2017 annual report and past reports we've submitted. Who's been involved to date in the stormwater permit: Public Works, Planning Board, Conservation, Board of Health, Board of Selectmen, IT, and other community groups. This was carried from our old permits. This will probably be changing in the near future. So the process went as we had to submit our NOI as of 9/29/18, which it has been submitted. I did send it around to several of the boards and commissions to kind of get their input on it. I was a little late in getting it out, so I didn't get a lot back, but we'll have plenty of opportunity to get together to discuss. So the NOI has been submitted. Our next big thing is our stormwater management plan has to be developed within the next year. So this will be involved creating a stormwater committee, finding someone to lead this, kind of getting all the boards together, and kind of coming up with updating our stormwater permit.
Can I ask one quick question?
Sure.
When you were saying how it was delayed because of litigation or whatever, have these dates been adjusted that you were just
Yeah,
talking about?
yeah. So the original, it was a couple things that happened in 2016. When they released it, they wanted to do it July 1, but towns run on fiscal budgets. So if they had dropped it on July 1, how can a town budget for upcoming monies if we don't know what's coming? So they put it on hold for that purpose, to allow towns to get their ducks in a row. And then there was other litigations that went on during that process. So the litigation, as far as I know, is still going on. Don't quote me, but I think 291 out of 351 towns in Massachusetts are part of the litigation for that. Bellingham, Franklin, and Milford were several of the big leaders for that. And that's because of the phosphorus removal, which we'll get into coming up. So this has been going on a long time. So there's two general structures to the permit: water quality based effluent eliminations, and then reduce pollution to the maximum extent practicable. There's a lot of little steps under here. From what I've read on Norfolk right now, our public education and outreach has been really good. Our public involvement is good. Illicit discharge detection and elimination primarily applies to municipalities that have sewer systems. So they're looking for that cross connections, the CSOs. We really don't have a sewer system. We have that one plant in town. So our focus has got to be looking more at those septic systems that might have been connected to the system, or roof drains and things like that. IDD, where Bob and I actually had the comments with our engineers. IDD is a big push for this permit. It's not really there for us. But it's under one big blanket, so they're comparing, Norfolk to Framingham or Boston. Everybody's the same. It's apples to apples. Construction site runoff and control. Planning board regs are really strong. Concom regs are really strong on that. I take a look at those. Post-construction, that's really strong. Pollution prevention and good housekeeping. That's going to be the second most expensive thing the town's going to be looking at, and I'll get to that in a little bit. Just a little information about the TMDLs for each. So majority of the town is in the Charles River watershed basin. We have a little tiny bit it's done 10 mile way down in the corner. So what they're looking at is the total maximum daily loads of nutrients, phosphorus and pathogens. So they're looking for municipalities to eliminate what's going into the rivers, lakes, and streams, or reduce. So luckily for us, we have Charles River, Mill River, Populatic, Mirror Lake, and Stop River are all rivers that have been identified as impaired or threatened by one or more of those TMDLs. Big ones for us are the ones highlighted in red: E. coli, total phosphorus, total phosphorus, total phosphorus. Way back in the beginning of this, I'm not sure if you guys caught what was going on. Bellingham, Franklin, Milford were kind of chosen as the pilot areas for phosphorus removal. Long back and forth on it, but they somehow identified that those three towns were the biggest contributors of phosphorus. Studies were done, and they kind of figured out that deciduous trees, decaying leaves, are their biggest producer of phosphorus to the system. And one of the meetings I was at, somebody kind of said it tongue in cheek, well, why don't we just cut down the trees and pave everything? Well, EPA didn't like that, but the idea was, how do we control the trees and the leaves? And there's mechanisms that we can look at to do that. Additional, we'll be looking at bacteria, phosphorus, and nitrogen. It's some things that we can already do. We've done in the past. Send out mailings about dog waste. Look at septic systems. So we'll be working closely with the building department on any violations like that, looking at things. IDDE is the big one for bacteria, do we have anything entering our system that shouldn't be? Stormwater management, introducing more BMPs into our system to eliminate and reduce nitrogen and phosphorus. And then overall, pollution prevention. The one that's kind of worrisome to the DPW is now they're looking for us to do street sweeping twice a year. So they're looking for that spring sweeping where we're cleaning up all the dirt and grime off the roadways, but they want us to attempt to clean up the leaves. Well, how's that gonna happen? That's a little tough because we're entering October, we could get a snowstorm. So what's the timing of getting out and sweeping up leaves for that second round to reduce that phosphorus before the snow comes? I've worked with a lot of municipalities implementing and kind of guiding them on this stormwater program, and that's one of the biggest comments I hear from most DPW and DPW directors. So waters with an approved TMDL. So this is the interesting part. So this is where we're getting into mapping our system. So a couple of years ago, the town had some interns come in and go out and GPS locate all of our infrastructure, which was great. But now we have to play connect the dots. So we have to draw how all those pipe connects to all of our infrastructure to see where they go. Ultimately, we have to map each subsystem. So we have 2 catch basins, 1 manhole and an outfall. That becomes a subsystem. Then we have to go to that outfall, perform a series of screening to identify whether we have any instances that might make the outfall a priority outfall that will then involve sampling. So right now, in hand, we have about 386 outfalls. A lot of those need to go out and be verified. The interns that did the data collection did a great job. Got a little tricky when they were trying to identify an outfall versus a culvert. So there is some verification and cleanup that we have to do there. So right now we're saying our system is about 90% mapped, and then we have to continue to get that done. And the mapping of the system kind of leads into everything else we have to do. We need to know where everything's going before we start going out investigating outfalls that are going into impaired waters. Some minimum control measures, we've kind of already talked about this, some of the basic stuff that they're looking for us to do. Public education and outreach. There's some good websites. The SERG, so Norfolk is part of the SERG region, so it's a bunch of communities and towns that have gotten together and they're kind of working together. So there's a lot of pamphlets and information that we can access through that to send out to the community. We'll be working with the IT to get stuff on the town website, DPW website. Public participation and involvement, looking at the past NOIs that have been filed by the town. The Boy Scouts have been involved in things. We have Charles River Watershed Association. There's a lot of stuff we could do, the labeling of the storm drains. Some of the stuff is, we need to look at the low cost, easy things we can do, the low hanging fruit, because there is gonna be a big influx of money involved into getting us up to speed. IDDE is pretty much the biggest part of the program. Part of that will be looking at ordinance and bylaw review. Now, I will be working with Rich, the town planner, coming up to kind of look at bylaws. It was his idea, and actually good timing, where we can kind of tie this into the planning board and kind of strengthen our bylaws a little bit. SSO inventory. So that's basically if we had, it really doesn't apply to us, but if we had, sewer and drainage connecting together, but we still have to go find our outfalls. And the big one here, so we have the SWIP we have to get done in year 1, and then we have to get our outfall inventory and mapping done within year 1. Kind of why are we going to do the mapping? Well, we need, like I explained, we need to know where everything is before we can proceed to our next steps. So as part of the investigation in the field, we actually have to have a written plan of what we're going to do if we go out and find an outfall that has a contaminant for bacteria, E. coli. We have to write a plan, how we're going to maintain it in the future, and kind of track. The big thing for this one too is tracking. The 2003 permit, EPA kind of let it go. when it first started, everybody was into it, and then they kind of let it go. All indicators are saying they're going to be knocking on our door a lot more to say, what do you have for reporting? What do you have for information? As part of the building of the catchment areas, they want us to do a ranking. So we have to look at priority issues like ammonia, surfactants, and bacteria. So that'll be done during the first round of sampling. The only nice thing about this is they give us 10 years to finish our catchment areas, which is, you know, great. One of the issues we have with the sampling is a lot of the sampling involves going to the outfall, taking a water sample. We can test for certain things there, but it needs to be sent off to a lab, and that usually has 6-hour turnaround time. So we kind of have to plan to go out and say maybe we're only getting 5 a day, because if the first one we get a hit at, we have to send it out to the door to a lab to be sampled. They have a flow chart for IDDE. So we have to do 2 types of screening. So there's the dry weather and then the wet weather. So dry weather, we're going to go out, do that initial screening, you know, looking for algae growth, is there smell. Hopefully that'll give us the indicators that we need to go back to in the wet weather. So the idea is we kind of have to go to every outfall once. If we find an issue the first time around, then that becomes our priority from then out to go back to those. And then we have to do the wet weather screening as well.
Can I ask one question
Sure.
there? Dry weather screening, so just bear with me. So if you don't have rain, nothing's happening, you shouldn't have anything coming out of your outfall.
That's the thing. So during dry weather, if you go to an outfall and you see water coming out of it, we might have an issue. We already have an issue in town. We have up at Lafayette Estates, groundwater is extremely high up there. I was at a manhole today, wide open, hasn't rained for a little bit, and it was coming out like I had a faucet open. So those are other issues that we're gonna have to get around. Yes, you're right. Is it an indicator that there's something else going on here, or is it just part of the natural environment that we have in Norfolk?
But wouldn't that be separate, because if you're talking about pipe stuff, that shouldn't.
We have pipe stuff, yeah, we have pipe stuff at Lafayette. Well, it actually runs down, it'll bubble up in a couple of the catch basins, and it bubbles up so much, it gets back into the system, and comes back down. It's interesting. I haven't seen that stuff in a long time, but I saw it today. Oh, I'm having a great time. So some of the things we'll be looking for during the sampling is the ammonia, residual chlorine, E. coli, and surfactants. So surfactants will be your soap suds. So if we see any soap suds, then that's an issue we'll be looking at. And then the wet weather flow, kind of the same thing. Again, it's kind of deceiving how they call sewer and drain. They actually call this, you know, municipal sewer system. Well, it's not. It's stormwater. You know, people get confused by that. Construction site and stormwater runoff, I think we have a good handle on that. We might just have to tighten or look at our bylaws a little bit. Runoff control, that seems to be pretty good shape. Post-construction, I think the town already has a pretty good handle on that one. We just have to tighten that up a little bit. Impervious areas, you know, we have a lot of GIS information is available, especially with Norfolk, the growth we're having, so we'll kind of be able to track, you know, impervious area versus our pervious area. So this is the interesting one. So it's pollution prevention and good housekeeping. As is kind of noted here, it's the second most significant expensive control measure. So this is involving going into town facilities and looking at the town facilities, checking out floor drains. I mean, there's a whole list of stuff that we're gonna have to look at. A lot of it, you know, was mirrored from the original permit. When I was working for the town of Bellingham, it was during the original permit. And there was a huge emphasis put on, a lot of the DPWs put in the floor drains and things like that. It's a matter of looking at it all together now, all facilities. So schools are involved in this, town halls. Before in the past, it was more DPW maintenance facilities and things like that. And they're looking for good housekeeping practices, which is, you know, storage of our materials, how we wash the trucks, and all that information, all that. This is kind of what they're going to be looking for, kind of like I alluded to, you know, monitoring results, reports, records. So we're going to look at the DPW, you know, implementing more record keeping, keeping track of what's going on, so we have that information to present. just recommendations, you know, that we've kind of know where we're at. First one would be coordinate all entities. You know, it's been kind of alluded that I think I'm going to be in charge of it. So I'll be talking to other boards and commissions to get together. Maybe you could allocate one person, and we could all work together. Completing the mapping, identifying our impaired waters, our outfall screening, and our GIS data compilation and reporting. So we're in pretty good shape. There's some few things we have to do there. Of course, I laugh when they say funding. There really isn't any. This is another unfunded, you know, mandate, you know. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the next one. So I haven't put a number together yet for Norfolk, but similar sized communities I was looking at are anywhere from 200 to 300,000 to implement this program.
That's just the testing?
Excuse me?
That's just the testing?
No, this is to basically do everything that we need to do. All the testing, all the mapping, permitting, and everything we're gonna have to do
Okay,
to get up to speed.
Pre-construction.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, is there any added cost to, we have some issues in town with some of we're going through now with certain properties that may or may not have contamination on them. If you're aware of certain contaminants out of sight, is that something that we need?
The only
be
way
testing on-
that would be affect this system if we knowing those contaminants are getting into our stormwater system. That'd be the issue. So that's where we want to go. So by mapping our system and making these subcatchments, we know 55 whatever street has contaminants. Now we can go to that catch basin, do some sampling, go to that outfall, do some sampling, see if that's actually impacting our system at all. Here's where the funding stuff is. So they list some, you know, grants, you know, during stormwater, you know, the first 2003 SRF was great. A lot of towns hopped onto that, did their GIS mapping. There isn't a lot out there. Grants are really small, and what they're looking for is a lot of the retrofits, a lot of BMPs. Well, that's design and construction. So that raises the cost of what we need to do. Another option they're kind of pushing is looking at stormwater utilities. I've worked with two communities where we were successful in making the stormwater a part of the utility. So everybody would pay stormwater just like you would, you know, water or sewer. You know, some people call it the rain tax, but it's an avenue for the town to look at to be able to afford to do everything that we need to do.
So they pay a percentage of the water bill?
There's a bunch of different ways you can do it. We actually calculated the impervious material for each house lot. Then they get kind of a rated. Shrewsbury, if you feel like looking at it, they have a great model. So the way they built theirs is there's ins and out for residents. So if you, let's say if you had an asphalt driveway and you put a gravel driveway in, you get a credit, you get money off your bill. So there's some interesting things out there. Chicopee was one of the first ones to do it. In '03, when I was working in Bellingham, we had actually looked at Chicopee's model. Didn't go over well in Bellingham, so. It's tough. It's tough to say to people, hey, you know, you need to pay for stormwater, but it's an important asset to the system, and you know, we have an aging system. Things are getting old. It's going to be a way maybe to fund that in the future. Something we could talk about.
But if your driveway, say your driveway's angled towards your house and nothing's going into the storm system, why would you?
Well, they were looking at it because it's still an impervious, you have an impervious area, so it's not grass, it's not sucking up, it's not letting the rainwater going into it, it's still running off.
Somewhere going into
Yeah.
your yard, so.
There's a lot of, Shrewsbury had a pretty good model, it was well thought out, like with things like
I
that.
know Dedham was really big on that.
Yeah, well, Dedham's, I think, is in
No,
process
no.
of, Reading and Newton are in process of. There hasn't been a lot within the state, there has been a lot of, you know, it's a tough one to sell, because it's another tax, another bill that people have to pay. Trust me, I'm a homeowner too, I mean, I don't wanna see it, but,
But it's something people don't think of.
yeah, it's an avenue that, you know, maybe at some point in time, the town would explore it. And then we have a bunch of checklists, just, you know, good housekeeping stuff that they're kind of advising us to do. So the end of it, like I said, designate a stormwater lead, you know, the stuff that we've all gone through in the past. And that was just, who pulled it together. So, I mean, the NOI has been submitted, we're at that step, so now we're just kind of pulling everything together, coming up with a game plan, identifying who in town is gonna be on the committee, part of the committee, and then we can move forward.
How many do you need on the committee?
I haven't seen anything regarding numbers. I mean, I would like to get, someone from planning board involved, someone from Concom, building. I mean, everybody, I know everybody's pressed for time. It's another thing we have to do, but I think it would be good if we all got involved and did it.
So as this moves forward, we'll be hearing from people, like somebody from conservation.
Well, I'll probably send out an email or something to all the boards, kind of put something together formally. And I've kind of talked to Jack a little bit about it, and Jack keeps laughing because he's like, you're in charge. I'm like, okay. Here's a little outfall map that was submitted as part of our NOI. You can see in here, it identifies the water segments of the water bodies that have impairments. So this will be part of the verification. We need to go out and verify definitely those outfalls. Yeah, the watershed map. Yeah, we got that little tiny piece down here that's in the Taunton, but we're all in the Charles River. And then where was the, yeah, this is, I was hoping, it was like one of the first things I did when I got here, is like, I pulled up the MS4 data, I'm like, come on, Norfolk, don't be in the whole thing, and yeah, we're in the whole thing. Because it would give us a little flexibility. Let's say if only a quarter of the town was in the MS4 zone, we'd only have to deal with that. Then we'd be done with it. Now we have to deal with the whole community. I had some towns that I worked with that were that lucky that they only had like a little sliver that was in the MS4.
And how many outfalls did you say we have?
Don't quote me on it right now. There's 368 and change in our system, but from the data that I've been looking at, a lot of them might be duplicates. A lot of them might be a pipe went to a culvert, and they called the culvert an outfall, or actually the pipe in the culvert is the outfall. So we have some cleanup to do on that. I'm hoping to get it down into the 200s, and hopefully out of those 200s, maybe we're only dealing with 100 or so that we have to monitor a little bit more.
Still a significant number.
Significant number, limited staff. Bob and I were talking about budgets. I mean, I'd love to get out there and do all the mapping and do all this stuff, because that's what I did, but realistically, it's probably not gonna happen. So we're gonna be relying on consultants to do that work. So I think the next step on our end is not only trying to get everybody else involved, but pulling budget numbers together so people have an understanding of how much it's gonna cost us to do what we need to do.
Okay.
Anything else?
Any discussion from anybody? Okay,
Well, thanks for having me in, I appreciate it.
thank you.
For your time.
It was a lot bigger than what we talked about last meeting.
Okay. So the next thing we have is the Lions Club. And we have, it should already be on, I think.
Okay. Is it working?
She'll let us know.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Kevin Roach. I'm from the Norfolk Lions. I'm in charge of the service project. This is in relation to the Norfolk Lions. We were interested in doing some service projects, and we know there's quite a few town parks and parcels of land that the town owns, and would be interested in cleaning up some walk-in trails, some brush, and putting down some bark mulch and making some of the parks accessible to the residents to use.
Okay. All right, so you're looking for some projects. Okay. Janet had just mentioned one about, on, is that Everett?
Everett Street, Amy's got, some stuff she can put up on the screen.
If you guys wanna do some outfall mapping, that'd be great.
We have 110 members, so I mean, I don't know the qualifications that you need.
This is over on Everett Street, and I think it was 2014. Oh, and I have some cheat sheets too. Ronald, grandparents, that's the lot I think they had owned, now it's, town conservation, but, we love to picnic here, so, you know, I think. Oh, thank you for reminding me. I apologize. I made some copies. I wasn't sure if anyone had come up with any ideas or not, and I just remembered this one, and I feel bad for kind of not paying attention. There's a lot of places we just don't have time to pay attention to, but, I did a copy of the deed section where it says you can or can't. It was basically, you know, like a walking path in, so if somebody went in, just to make sure, I don't know if, I didn't get on my card today, are there branches down or whatever? Maybe just to clean it up, cut out some of the stuff going, I don't know, yeah, oh, look at that, that's something they had turned in. It's, you know, something that anybody in that neighborhood could be using, it's a real, once you're out there, it's real pretty. I don't know if you guys are even up to, like, having a little picnic table or something out there.
Yeah,
but-
I mean, if you wanted to, there's no, I'm sure the Lions wouldn't have a problem going and putting it up there and having a little picnic area if that's something they wanted.
'Cause right, if it's Everett Street, they have the sign that you saw, they have the sign that's right there on the left-hand side, so something not too far where it's kind of inviting for people to come in and, I mean, if you guys are bored and just have time, we have lots of sites that could use some work, so we can come up with a whole, list.
Yeah, maybe if you want to have a list and maybe the next meeting, if you have some time available, we can come in and
Oh,
we
that
can
would,
discuss some of that.
that'd be awesome, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And you can take this one with you, just in case, like this weekend, you know, it's gonna be cooler, it's more comfortable for working out there, and
So I just wanted to add a couple things to that. I'm Ed Melanson from the Norfolk Lions. What's special about this, we'll do these projects all the time. We do that. That's what the Lions do. Our motto is we serve. This year is our 60th anniversary. We've set a goal for 60 service projects to be done in Norfolk this year. So
this calendar year?
This calendar year, I'm sorry, our year, which ends the same as yours, June 30th. So it started July 1st.
we got plenty of
Goes till
time.
June 30th, and in the winter months, we sell Christmas trees and other things, so we probably won't be doing a whole lot of stuff outdoors. But other than that, we're open for any sort of projects that you might have, independent of these sort of conservation land or forest work. If you know of anyone in town that perhaps is, that needs help with their yards or something like that, that perhaps some elderly folks, I know there's other boards that address that, and there's other resources in town to help direct us there, but on a personal level, if you're aware of anyone else, you just want to slip us the name, we'll take it from there.
That's
Okay.
awesome.
All
That's
right, thank you.
awesome.
I know that little trail behind the Olive Day School, that just comes right back out onto Tucker. Little trail there, I know that could use some work. And then Pondville, when you see the sign up on 115 going up the hill, there's a trail in there. I know that's really overgrown.
Yep.
So but we can work on a list for you. And definitely some stuff.
That would be great, thank you.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone we
Yeah,
need to
Amy.
notify that they'll be working, or?
I don't know.
What was your question? I'm s-
Is there anyone we need to notify that they'll be working on a particular place? The neighbor would call if they're cutting down branches and things or cleaning up.
If it's town property,
Yeah, if it's,
Guess
yeah,
it'd
if
be
it's
okay.
town property, yeah, if it's town property, they're okay, because we know we don't wanna violate any local wetland.
Yes, I understand that, yeah.
And then as far as individuals, you would have their permission or whatever before you're out there, so,
Yep,
okay,
okay,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
great.
Maybe you can get a hold of us, if they come up with some ideas or something, you can now get a hold of me and go from
Super.
there.
all right, great.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
awesome. Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, we're gonna come up with 60 things.
Oh,
How many things have you done so far? We didn't ask that.
About 10 or 11.
Yeah?
Okay.
Oh, good. Okay, great.
Have to start at 60.
Yeah.
Actually, with 110 members, we like to keep people doing lots of things. So besides fundraising for other things, doing these service projects, what's nice about those is it's a direct benefit to everyone in the community. So
You
if
got
you've
it.
got something, more than happy to do.
But if you keep it in mind too, because a lot of these places, it's like your yard, every time you turn around, there's more to do, so, I mean, if you've got a steady list, you know, you're always welcome to go back to the beginning to see if it needs tweaking or whatever. That would count as a separate project, right?
We haven't figured out how we're gonna count them yet. We figured we're just gonna do a bunch of them, then we'll figure out how to count them. We also work with the DPW, because I think when we've done the one down off of, across from where Carol Green is, I forget the name of the place.
Campbell.
The Campbell Forest, when we
Yeah.
did that one, I think the DPW brought in wood chips and some other stuff, so we, you know, for the parking lot, I think the front gravel, we spread out, and some other stuff on the walking trails, so, and I think they picked up some of the stuff that we gathered up too, so if there's things in the town that need to be done, we can also coordinate with the DPW, make sure that they help us.
All right, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
This could be fun.
So,
To reach out to David, I think he had a list.
Dave had been asking about the forest next to his house.
Yeah, I think he had a list of trails.
Okay. So all we have left is this old business, review of the Conservation Maintenance Fund on here. I don't know what that's about.
What's this Lake
I
Street
think that was
discussion?
just to,
Oh, that, sorry, we'll
I
go to
think
that in a
that was
second.
those like $200, $100, and
yeah,
where did that end up?
there were some small funds, $200 here and there, and they were returned to the general fund because they hadn't been used in many years.
Okay.
But the Concom was kind of surprised to find out when they wanted to go buy the signs, the dog signs, and there wasn't money.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So, there's gonna be a transfer request. It's not a warrant article, it's just in the general transfer, so
Okay.
the town, finance manager will put in.
Okay,
And there'll be a request for a $750 line item for conservation.
okay.
Is that money gonna be coming, do we have to wait till next fiscal year, or is that something that's gonna show up?
It will show up after town meeting, after November town meeting.
November, okay.
Okay, I just skipped over Lake Street discussion, so Janet, you heard that is, remember the resident was gonna come in
Oh,
about Lake
yeah,
Street? But
Lake
now the
Street.
injunction has been
Lifted,
resolved.
I think, supposedly.
Lifted is the right word?
Yep,
So Lake Street is available for the DPW to go work on now.
that's what we're hearing. We should've checked with Barry
We don't
maybe
know for
while he was
sure,
here. And I
but
think they're
that's what-
hoping to get the binder coat down on Lake Street by winter time.
So whether they're coming to us with any other project down there, we're gonna see in the future.
Right, if they're in
regarding
those
Lake Street.
resource areas, they'll have to come see us, yeah.
So that's good that they're finally gonna get to
Well,
work on the road.
let's- Yes.
Yes, they had issues with drainage, didn't they, one of the tenants?
Well, one of the
one of the
owners
residents.
contested the ownership of the road,
Uh-uh.
because the town wanted to work on it. Because a lot of those dirt roads, people owned a piece of it in front of their house. So that is all for the
Nice.
evening? All right, so I get a motion to close the meeting, the October 10th meeting?
Second? Oh, I gotta make a motion to close the September meeting.
A second, please.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay. Okay, Mrs. Gleason.